And the irony of it all is, guess who called me back and said he needed an FHA appraiser?
Let me
And I
think.
guess, and I told him what I was going to charge him.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out once again with you in the podcast chair. Thank you for joining me. Can't wait to introduce you to my guest. First, want to pause and remind everybody that we're sponsored by some great companies. Of course, Alamode. Alamode is the software that I've used forever and ever and will continue. Check them out. Go to alamode.com or 800 Alamode. And of course, we are sponsored by the great OREP Insurance. OREP, of course, is the E&O that I choose to use. I choose it because it is the best, and the benefits that come with it are just super awesome. OREP, OREP.org. That's OREP.org. Want to welcome to the program again, my good friend, Miss Dana Schau. Welcome back to the program, Dana.
Hi there.
Good to have
you. Good morning
you.
to you. Or actually, good afternoon to me. Good morning to you.
It is still morning here. Glad you could be on again. So you were on episode number 591, and I would really highly encourage people go back and listen to that episode if they have not, because you kind of had a unique perspective here. You're in North Dakota, but you're not originally from North Dakota, are you?
No, and if you'd have told me 10 years ago I'd be sitting in a house in Williston, North Dakota, I'd be like, was there a pandemic or an apocalypse? And I'm like, yeah, but I moved here before it. But I'll be honest, you couldn't pick a better place to live during an apocalypse than rural North Dakota.
I'll bet. Yeah, you're pretty isolated out there, aren't you?
And it was normal. People came and picked up different things that friends are like, oh my gosh, it's like nothing even happened here. I'm like, no, we wore a mask for like, I'm not going to say how long, but I don't want to get my governor in trouble or my pastor in trouble. But
yeah.
It was pretty cool.
I think they hit the news a little bit on that. So Williston is where you're at. What's the population? I mean,
27, 25,000.
And that's the big city. That's the big
city. Is it the fourth biggest city in Williston, in the state of North Dakota? It's around there. You got, Fargo, I think Bismarck, Grand Forks, Minot. So we're fifth. I think we're fifth.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, but you got a Walmart, you've got a theater,
to go see anything really big, my friend just went to see The Chosen, that movie that came out. I mean, I've been watching that. She had to drive 2 hours to see The Chosen. I'm like, oh my gosh, where do I live? We do have a movie theater, but they don't bring everything in.
I live in rural Idaho, but I love movies, so that would be tough for me, I'll tell you.
No, we do have a movie theater. You just can't see some of those limited
just
showing things.
Got
it. I gotta be honest. I still can't believe I live here, but I will say that the COVID and everybody's life has changed. Mine just changed, and it kind of stayed. I'm an Amazon. I don't like some of the things about Amazon, but I sure do love my Prime Day when it comes, because I get a lot of things from Prime that I don't even have to think about. So I don't, I've changed living out here too. I don't value walking mindlessly around the mall like I used to. I'm like, who would want to do this?
It's got to make a big difference. No, you should give a little background. You came from where?
Okay, I'm from I was born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah, so, which is a little bigger.
Medical Mecca. We've got not six. I mean, I used to work for Ganto's. One of the it was actually a women's fashion store in the Grand Rapids area, based out of Grand Rapids, and I helped build a lot of the stores. I was a construction coordinator, so that was kind of neat how God brought me into that to use some of my prior knowledge and prior skill set. But we got regional malls everywhere. I mean, you got 2 of them, and then you've got some smaller malls. So no, the shopping here is so different. The people here are different. I hadn't driven on a highway because of COVID in quite a while, and I took my sisters and we went down to Grand Rapids to see a concert down, and My sister Jody said, Dana, should you be driving? There's a blue arrow. There's a green
like
arrow. I mean, I
it's
don't
like
have
driving in
that
foreign
here.
country, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like, oh
that's
my
funny.
gosh, am I driving on the right side of the road? So it to go from Grand Rapids, Michigan, which we have about 1 million people that live within
Mm,
Kalamazoo. I'm not going to get into it, counting Lansing. There's a lot of people in Western Michigan where I'm from. To
right.
move to rural North Dakota, and why I chose Williston, I really felt like because that's the farthest west you can get. I'm
Mm,
17 miles from Montana, and I could have been in Minot, which was one of my other markets, but I really felt that the Lord called us out here. I mean, for
yeah.
one thing, it's the world's biggest truck stop.
Mm,
Williston is the boom of the Bakken. You got some towns south. I won't throw the names out, but there's Watford City and a few other communities and
hmm. Yeah.
Dickinson, but really Williston kind of is. And I will share that with the census of 2020, Williams County and McKenzie County. McKenzie County was first, which is the one that I just said Watford is. And then Williams County were the fastest growing per capita. The
Hmm.
villages grew more than we did. But when you say per capita, how many people lived here before in the 2010 census to the 2020 census, Williams County and McKenzie County grew faster. We were at the top of the census of growing. We were the boom. So
During the pandemic, not so much now, Dana, but during the pandemic, I had quite a few people reach out to me for private coaching with the question. I live in a metropolis. I live in a big city. I would love to move to a new area that's more rural. Talk to us in general about that process. I mean, that's got to be kind of shocking going from kind of a population mecca to the rural area. Was there a lot of adjustment when it came to getting clients and learning the area, getting geographically competent? I mean, that's got to be a shocking and a huge ladder to crawl up, I would guess.
Okay, so the first thing I did is, my friend of mine who was building in Stanley, North Dakota, which is the town over, I mean, not town, but that's in the county, Mountrail County, that's still part of the Bakken, but it's right on the outskirts of it. He was building houses and told me that you had to wait 6 months to get an appraisal out here. And I laughed. I said, yeah,
Jeez.
like I'm going to do an appraisal in Williston or I didn't even know where Williston even was.
Right.
And he said, no, we're waiting 6 months. So I called and he was working with a lender out of Minot, which
Mm,
Minot is the fourth biggest. And Minot would be like working in I wouldn't even say Cadillac because it's bigger than Cadillac. That's not fair. That's not a town you would know. There's 40,000 people, give or take. But they have
okay.
the regional hospital. They don't have a big mall. They got Dakota Mall, but
Mm,
there's a mall and it's a bigger area. There's 2 high schools now. There's going to be 4 high schools. So Minot has grown, and it's
mhm.
only an hour and a half north of Bismarck. So I started in Minot because that's really the only place I could fly into. And Minot went through a devastating flood a couple years before that. So I started in Minot and learned about the flood and I only did purchases. I didn't feel like I wanted to do any refis because, knowing a refi, you really got to know the market. I'm not
Sure.
saying that you shoot for a price, but
No,
when
I
you got
get
a
it.
willing
I get
buyer
it.
and a willing seller, and it's been on the market for 100, for 90 days and
At least you've got a
I,
ballpark. Yep.
yeah. Yeah, and then of course it's easier to work with realtors. Of course, I can't trust just the realtors to tell me stuff. So I worked with the municipalities, and I had a statement that I put in the top of every appraisal. This is my second appraisal in this county. I did this,
Wow.
this, and this. Or this is my first.
Yeah.
And I will say that I got to know the lender, First International Bank of Trust, a very predominant bank here. They actually gave me some kudos. They said they've never had an appraiser take the time to explain what they did. And I grew. I started, in Minot. So here's, this is Michigan, right? So this is
Hmm.
North Dakota. So, Fargo's way over here, Williston's here, Minot's like right here. So kind of still on the west central side.
For people that are driving around taking their confos and listening to this on audio and not on the YouTube video, she's using her hand as the state and pointing out where all the cities are. I love it.
Like I did for Michigan, right? But so it's in the north central, but it's really closer to central. And I started there, and then I started heading towards the Bakken, which is where I thought I needed to be anyway. That's where Williston is. Williston's
Hmm.
2 hours west of Minot. So I knew I was going to go that direction because Williston was where I had appraisals in Williston, I had appraisals in Minot. So then I just bridged the gap between the two towns eventually as I got more competency.
Good.
And just learning to work with, and again, I shared this with you. We probably won't get to that, but when I became an appraiser, one thing I struggle with is everybody wants people I'm training, they want everything handed to them on a silver platter. This is who you call when this happens. This is who you call.
Right.
And that's not the way this is unless you're going to work in one little community where, you call this person for zoning, you call this person for specials. No, I work in, 12 counties,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't talked to the person in Ross, North Dakota ever in my life because,
Right.
I had to be willing to make that call. I don't want to say be vulnerable. I'm like, hey, this is my first appraisal in your community. I understand there was a flood. This house was flooded. What resources do you have online for me? What can I learn? Do I need to come in? So you do that. I really rarely had to come in just because they don't want you to come in if you don't have to. Now, there are a few counties that don't even keep track of things with addresses where I literally have to go in because I have to count the houses on the plat map to know which house to go take a picture of.
I've been there.
Gosh. But, that's how I did it.
Yeah.
And you work
In other words, it's a lot of hard work. It's you can't just gracefully drop in and expect to know everything and to pick it up. It is a scary thing to move areas, but it's possible.
I remember that first time I came in because Minot I felt like still felt normal. There was a mall. I don't think I spent the night. And I will say I left Minot and went to it south and went to this little town called Plaza. And I met the guy from Bismarck there, and I was doing a duplex for the guy. Mm. And we were on the streets of Plaza, North Dakota, which might have, 100 people, right? Mm. It's November, and he has not been able to get an appraiser to come to Plaza in 6 months.
Wow.
So he's looking at me and he's saying, so when will this be done? And he goes, it'll be done by spring. It's November 17th.
Can you imagine that question?
I looked at him, I go, I'm going to give you a Christmas present. This is going to be done before Christmas. He almost hugged me in the streets of North Dakota.
Isn't that funny?
Because he's like, Christmas? Oh my gosh. So to say, how did I get clients? I had a pulse. That's how I got clients.
Yeah. No, I get
I had a license in North Dakota.
Yeah. They needed you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit, Dana, if you don't mind. Even before North Dakota, your training, what got you into this? Tell me a little bit about that process. Because back then, I assume there were not a whole lot of women getting into this appraisal world.
Yeah, and I have to think about it. Back then, we really were a lot more isolated. My trainer did not go to any meetings. We were pretty much just he and I and his staff. So all right, so I'll start with that. So I as you were, I was a teacher. I was studying to be a teacher back in like 90, not even 90, 89, 90. Okay. And I had worked for the construction company I told you about, and I kind of switched jobs once I decided I wanted to go into teaching and didn't want to work at Gantos full time. So I was working part time for an appraiser, but very limited for him because his wife was a at-home nurse, and I really started up her office, and I feel like I forged a really nice path for her, and she was very happy with my work. And so I started helping her husband a little here and a little there, but not much. He was very small numbers of appraisals, and didn't need much help. But he had a friend who was much more of a mover and shaker in the appraisal business, and one of his assistants either had surgery, baby, I don't remember what it was, but I was in the summer when I wasn't going to school very much between my junior and my senior year, I think, and I started working for him, and I worked full time for the 6 weeks, and I was trained for like an afternoon, and like I said, I felt like I did a really good job for him because he was getting an appraisal here and appraisal there, and I was having to deal with 6 or 8 different municipalities a week, and I just figured it out. I didn't ask him every day, who do I call for this? Who do I call for that? I just figured it out.
Yeah.
And I remember even saying to myself, of course, like I said, I still am a senior in college and going to be a teacher. Man, I am really good at this. I'm a data hound.
Yeah, good for you.
I was like a data hound, and put it out of my mind, did a good job, became a teacher for 4 years, really loved the profession, but felt that I wanted more flexibility, and teaching's flexible in the summer, but it certainly isn't for those 9 months out of the year when you're, so I felt like I needed to quit. So I just quit teaching after only 4 years, but my husband and I decided we want to start our family. So I quit, and I, again, had never even thought about appraising at that point because it's been 4 years,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I gotta make some money, but I don't want to work for somebody. I want to do my own thing. So I don't know if they even have it. I said I went to this meeting where we're going to sell gumballs. I wrote a check for $3,000. I was going to sell gumballs. I was going to sell.
Wait. I gotta. So your transition from a strict schedule of a teacher to freedom was gonna the path you were gonna take was a gumball salesman.
I was going to sell gumball machines. I was going to try to find places to put gumball machines and those different things, and I was going to have my own supply of gumballs. You know, if you think about it, where they set them up, I don't know if I don't know if I even seen a gumball machine in a while. And I cannot believe I wrote a check for $3,800 back in 95 or whatever, 94. And then but while I was there, I sat next to a person who was studying to be an appraiser. Honest to God, that's a divine appointment, because
Wow.
I really don't know if I would have thought of it. And I looked at her and said, "You're studying to be an appraiser. I just wrote a check for $3,000 to sell gumballs. I wonder which one would be a better career move." I got my $3,000 back. I canceled the check the next day because I called Bruce that night and said, "Hey, this is Dana Schau. I worked for you like 4 years ago. What do you think about training me?" He goes, "No lie. You start Monday, I'll sell you my business."
Oh my gosh, isn't that great?
So I went in on Monday, and I will say this, there was another person there who'd been with them for 4 years, and he didn't train her.
Wow.
But it's because I picked it up so quick.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, because blood was going to spurt out of her eyes because she couldn't believe that he was going to train me first. You know?
Had she asked?
Oh gosh, yes, because she ended up buying his business. That's another story. I ended up getting pregnant.
Wow.
My pregnancy went south with my twins. I ended up, they're here, they're 25, but I ended up not buying it, thank God, and that's where I think we want to go because of what he said to me. I'm so glad I didn't buy his business because, so I got licensed in September of 96. End up having my pregnancy I got pregnant in the 97. And I ended up having my twins. I ended up having a really tough pregnancy. And I ended up really not getting back into it till January of 98. So I had trained, I had worked. I worked even while the boys were little, but I really didn't get back into it till January of 98.
Got it.
And then I started, building some relationship with different people. Was involved in my church and my sister back then. I appraised my sister's house, which I still can't believe I could do it. I did it. I disclosed that I did. It was a drop kick appraisal though. It really was. It was there was nothing, you know what I mean? It was a bi-level where there was 3 on the same street. But I did it and we disclosed that I did it.
Yeah.
And met the client. The lender loved me. I did a great job. So I brought this client to my boss and said, "You're only paying me 50% as it is. I'm pretty much doing it all on my own. 50% is not enough, I said, if I bring my own clients, I want 75. And he said, no.
Okay.
So this is 99 and, October of 99 or around there. I don't remember. Right. It doesn't matter. It was a year and a half or so. And he said I had to choose. I was either going to work with him and get half, or I was going to start on my own. And needless to say, this challenger, Enneagram 8, said, I'm on my own. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Oh, you'll be back. You'll be back." I got licensed in FHA, so I was his FHA appraiser. I think he was too. I don't remember. But he said, "You'll be back. Women don't make it in this industry."
Oh, no, he did not say that.
Something about the old boys club and the old boys school and having all those little letters and numbers after your name, because I don't have any of that. I didn't go to Institute. I went to Holloway, and my trainer is Tom Gilbert out of Northern Michigan University. He's still my mentor, even though I'm out here. I text him and not text him, but email him, and he still keeps me. I ask him questions kind of like I ask you. He's been there for me since.
Very cool.
Known him for 20 some years, but no, he told me I wouldn't be able to do it. That I wouldn't have enough clients, and I will say that my faith grew, and I really started getting into the Word and spending time with God, and really wanted to honor God with my job. And he blessed me unbelievable, because my business grew every year. I doubled my sales every year. And my husband was working, at the beginning. So I didn't really need the value. So it must have been like in 99 and Charlie had to quit his job in 2000, because I said I didn't quit teaching to put my kids in daycare. So he quit and became an assistant.
Yeah.
He worked with me. And the irony of it all is, guess who called me back and said he needed an FHA appraiser?
Let me think.
And I told him what I was going to charge him.
So much for not making it, right?
Yes. Yes.
We're talking with Dana Schau Appraisals out of rural North Dakota. When we get back, Dana, I'd like you to share just a story or two with us as we close out. Just something funny or interesting that's happened to you that you'd like to pass on. First, want to pause and remind everybody that we're sponsored by a great company called A La Mode. Of course, A La Mode. Dana talked about starting this back in 90 something, and that's when I started. And clear back in 90 something, I was using A La Mode because that's what my mentor was using. I've used the others, and they're great, but I'll tell you, I keep coming back to A La Mode because it is the best. Check them out. Go to alamode.com. You can learn a lot just by going to their website and looking at the training videos, or pick up the phone and call them. They will answer. A real person will talk to you. 800 Alamode. How often do you think about your E&O? Probably not very often. I know I don't. But you don't need to. Once a year, when you think about it, I want you to ask yourself, are you with the best? Are you with the best coverage? Are you with the best people? Are you with the best benefits? I'm guessing if you're not with OREP, the answer is no, and no. Check it out by going to their website and finding out what benefits they have for you. Their website, of course, is orep.org. That's OREP.org. Again, orep.org. Welcome back to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out with you and hanging out with my friend Dana Schau. Thank you for being on, Dana. It's so good to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's really fun. I enjoy hearing people's stories about how they got into this and some changes that they've made. As we get ready to close out, Dana, tell us something crazy, something funny, something interesting about, you've been in this a long time. You've been in this just about as long as I have. I started in 96. Sounds like that's about when you started, right?
Yes. September 96. Yes.
So you've probably had a few experiences, maybe that you didn't share on the first episode that you would like to pass on.
Well, I hope I didn't share this one because Chuck and I were out there together. We started coming out here together in 13. We would drive one way and I'd fly the other. We'd buy round trip tickets because I really needed to cover the whole state anyway, but only once. I didn't need to drive through twice, So we were out here and we're in rural Watford City, and that was back before we had. It was 2013. And it was really cold. It was 27 degrees below zero. And I used to think that's cold. Now 55 is what we're dealing with occasionally.
Right.
So it's 27 degrees below zero. We're in rural North Dakota, and I'm trying to use my phone as a hotspot to mail up this appraisal because I didn't have the staff I have now, and I need to get this appraisal up. And Chuck kept creeping closer and closer to the house. We were trying to connect to their Wi-Fi because I couldn't get my Wi-Fi to work out there in the rural area. And he got stuck in the snowdrift in a Mazda. We weren't even in a truck. And it was minus 27 degrees below zero.
Oh my gosh.
We had gloves, but we were stuck. And he is more of a thinker and has to process what he's going to do. And I knew I needed to get into town because we could not connect. And this appraisal had to be uploaded. So I kind of went on a banshee. Didn't break into their barn, but got in the barn, found some 2x4s and found some rakes. And I got us out of that in a matter of like 5 minutes. But I will say it was the coolest I think I've ever been in my life. But got us out. And he helped, but I am more of the doer. He's the thinker. I'm that impulsive Peter who jumps out on the water and goes, hey, wait a minute, where am I? But I get things done.
Yeah.
And I got us out of it.
As one who has broken into a barn before, I hear you. Now, it wasn't 55 degrees below zero, but we did have a flat tire. My kids and I a couple years ago, and we were in the middle of nowhere, and we didn't have a wrench to change the tire. We had a tire. We just didn't have a lug wrench, and when somebody's not home and the barn's open,
you do it. Yeah, that's exactly.
I did leave a note. I did leave a note and thank them.
And we did too, because I think what we did to their snowdrift, they must have thought, what was there a moose attack here or something? And the way the snow was moving.
All right,
so that was a funny one.
Before we started the episode, you told me about the attack by the chicken. I've got to hear that story before we close.
Well, I was in Cedar Springs, Michigan, and I'd said back then that was a vacant house. No, it wasn't vacant because they wouldn't have chickens, but they weren't there. And occasionally, like being a mom, I was a mom. Appraiser wore flip flops, and sometimes I might show up if no one's going to be there. I might show up in my shorts. I might, who knows what? Because I'm heading up for a family reunion. I utilize my time wherever I was going. I'm not going north to Cedar Springs unless I'm going to bring my kids, or I shouldn't say I brought my kids. I don't remember. All I know is I was dressed. I dress differently sometimes for each appraisal. Sometimes, like I said, I want to sort of vlog the appraiser wore flip-flops because I'll show up an appraisal in flip-flops, but I always bring socks, Thank God I wasn't wearing flip-flops and shorts because I'm out in this backyard and it's a big double wide trailer and there was goats and chickens and
Hey, I am so there.
I scurried the chickens away into kind of the woods because it was kind of close to the woods. And there was this one male rooster that I didn't know. He didn't like me. He came after me and he bit me through my jeans. And again, he didn't hurt me, but if I'd have been in my flip-flops and shorts,
you would have been in trouble.
I might have needed to get some stitches because he came after me. Because I was messing with his girls.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for being on here. I consider you a dear friend. I appreciate you telling your story as the appraiser who just can't make it because you're female, right? It's just not going to work.
Oh gosh.
Welcome to the world, right? And
yes, I tell you, and I look at it,
yourself.
I thank the Lord every day that I have this business. And I will say, last thing is, my twin boys are coming out here. Each of them one's gonna start training next month, and the other one's gonna start training in April. So we're licensed in Montana and North Dakota. So
nice.
I think they're gonna work both markets, but one plans to work Montana, one plans to work North Dakota.
Very cool.
More in the central part of the state. We're not sure too. We're gonna just see where it brings us. It's just exciting. They both are excited to do it, and Mom's excited they're ready for it. They're 25. Yeah. I wonder if we would have done it sooner, but they weren't ready. Now they're ready.
Very
some
cool.
Education, some schooling, and
good for you. You're passing the torch. Passing the torch. I love it. Well, thank you, Dana. I appreciate you joining us. Folks, if you have not yet joined our YouTube channel, I highly encourage that you take a look at it. If you liked this video, please actually click the like button, hit the subscribe button. You won't miss an episode. We are at The Appraiser Coach on YouTube. Thank you for joining us, folks, and go out there and create some value.
You've been listening to The Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.